What's up, Scrubs, and welcome back to another retro format Yu-Gi-Oh video. Last time we did, it was a few months ago, we did some Tengu Plant format, taking a look at Relinquished with a nice little Piper Chaos shell, but this time we're taking a look at Fire Water format. I wanted to do an Xyz type format, like in the middle of Zexal, I believe is where the Xyz came from. I'm not a big anime watcher, to be honest, but there were a few options there. There was like wind-up format, Vegas format. I might play Vegas in the format, but this time I wanted to try Fire Water. And a big reason I wanted to is because I really like I really like decks like Bujin and Fire Fist, and I think Mermail Atlantean is just a cool deck. But despite that, all those like cool decks that I wanted and I liked and I wanted to see in this thing, in this format, I thought I should try something completely new, honestly. So here I am with Constellar, a deck that I have never ever seen before. I've never played it. I've never read the cards up until playing this format. And I think that was a very cool way to experience this format, especially because I was going up against like Mermail players and Bujin players, and those were decks that I was relatively familiar with. So we'll go over this deck list I used, and go over the cards, and we'll watch a match that I did against a Bujin player, funnily enough. Constellar is a really cool Xyz strategy who has quite reliable... Xyz plays on multiple axes, which is very unique. A lot of I was expecting it to just be a random rank 4 spam deck like Battle and Boxers or something. But instead I got this deck, which can definitely go on the rank 4 axis very well, but can also go on the rank 5 axis relatively well as well. There's a lot of, specifically the main playmakers, Kaus and Pollux are your main ways of making the rank 5s, and they are pretty easy to get, and they're pretty consistently available, and the rank 5 pool is something that not very many other decks have in here, and combined with the rank 4 pool makes a great toolbox. The main monsters, of course, Pollux. This is a condition to normal summon an extra Constellar monster. Notably, you can't Valor this, because if you Valor this, it still goes through. Very interesting. And Kaus can just increase and also decrease, but I don't think you're ever doing that with this deck at the moment. In this current list, levels by 1 up to twice. So a lot of the times you will normal Pollux, get the extra normal Kaus, activate the effect twice, once on Kaus and once on Pollux, and make a rank 5. There's also a bunch of Constellar names here. We got Pleiades, my beloved. You'll see him in the in the replay for sure. We also got Sombre. Don't know how to pronounce this guy, but he's kind of weird. It took me a bit to understand what he was doing, but he can just banish a Constellar, add another one back from the grave, banish a Constellar from the grave, add a different Constellar back from the grave to the hand, and then you get an extra normal. Kind of like Pollux, but Pollux using more in the early mid-game. This is more of a mid to late game card. As such, you do play 3. There's also Algiady, which is just when it's normal, you can special a level 4 Constellar monster from your hand, which is a lot like Pollux and Sombre, but it's kind of redundant, and it's also just Pollux at home, to be honest. And as such, it's kind of redundant, so we only run 1, even though this is a pretty good card. We also have Sheraton here. Unfortunately, not a level 4, but it's just a normal summon that can add Constellar monsters, just to add that consistency. Generally, you can survive if you just normal Sheraton and wait for next turn, you know. We also got Honest, because we're playing light monsters, and Ryo, because it's just a good card, you know? Furthermore, we got this little Fire Fist engine. You see this a lot in this format, even Obviously, Fire Fist is a pretty good deck, but a few decks just run a little Fire Fist engine because Bear, Gorilla, and Tenki are great, as well as Wolfbark, which is an honorary Fire Fist. You see, Tenki can search Kaus, as well as these cards up here, these four, which make it an incredibly good consistency booster for the Constellar strategy, because Kaus is a key piece to getting rank 5s. It's pretty much the only way you'll be able to do that. But because of that, you have a lot of just ways to access it very early on. 3 Tenki plus 3 different ways to search it in 2 Bear and a Gorilla. And then if these Gorillas and Bears can also act as removal for your opponent's monsters with Bear and spell traps with Gorilla. Also Wolfbark, searchable off Tenki, that's why we're only playing 1, and it can just turn a deceased Fire Fist into a rank 4, which is just good enough, you know? Power spells, notably Book of Moon, can stop a lot of extra deck plays that happen in this format, very important. Dark Hole. Forbidden Lance is just a cool card. It can be used both offensively and defensively. Pretty standard, but it's not something you see much in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though it's still pretty good. Forbidden Chalice you might have seen, but honestly these cards are pretty cool and a little underrated even in modern formats. MST because spell traps. Rhoda can search Pollux, which is just great. Bunch of trap cards, of course. Fiendish Chain is something that is very good in this format specifically, just because it's one of the best trap cards, which might not be the case for some other formats around here. I'm not sure. Around this time period, I'm not quite sure. But Safe Zone is just a cool card that is playable pretty much exactly in this format, and that's just a neat little snapshot at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh! History where people were playing Safe Zone. As you can see, we're signing another copy as well, just because it's good enough to play. It's just a good trap card. Soul Drain is here for, I think, mostly the Mermail matchup, and it's just some other stuff. Just a decent card. Torrential and Vanities is unfortunately in this format. Zam. What else is in this format is Maxi, but it's not that oppressive as it is in modern, because generally you're not summoning a whole lot, but you still summon enough to where it gets annoying sometimes. Not necessarily this deck. Obviously, a lot of your summons are going to be extra normals off of Pollux and Somber. However, it still kind of grates on you sometimes. Di-Fi and Macro, we're just playing because it's good. The third MST, in case they're playing some trap-heavy decks, System Down from Machine Monsters. Debunk and Mind Crush are very interesting trap cards from this format. Generally more matchup dependent on how good they are. So as such, they are relegated to this side, but they are pretty good, and I'm very happy that they're playable. They're very cool trap cards. Also, Overworked is pretty much a side deck staple at this point. Tenki does increase attack, even if only by 100, and that means anything that plays the Fire Fist engine, as well as Fire Fist themselves, are susceptible to it, which makes it a pretty good side deck choice. As for the extra, we got general rank 4 stuff. The Constellar names. Ptolemy M7 is just a sick card, and he's useful in this deck and not just, crazy Drytron combos in current day. Unfortunately, I often find myself wishing it could bounce things that are not just monsters back to hand. Like, dang, if it could recycle a Rhoda, a Dark Hole, it would be so cool. Also, Exitown Knight is crazy. Gaga Cowboy is pretty good. There's a bunch of other stuff. Sino and Honor Arc outs a lot of things that you'll have a lot of trouble outing otherwise. And then some rank 5s. Star Wage Power Dynamo not included. But Tyrus, Zenmayo, and Volcasaurus on top of the Pleiades is just add a pretty great rank 5 toolbox. Paladynamo also I do really like in this format. Not seen very often in modern, even though it's just a good Xyz monster, and because it is locked to light monsters specifically to making it perfect for our light rank 4 strategy, Xyz, whatever. Anyway, that's the deck. I hope you try this out at some point. It's honestly really fun. But before we go, let's check out one more replay. Let's say not one more, but we'll check it out. Okay, we'll just see how this format actually plays, so you can see with your own eyes. This is a match I had against DM3, who was playing Bujin. I've played Bujin on my channel before in Master Duel, but never in a Legacy format. And this is probably the format where Bujin's at its best, I believe. Possibly it's better in like Vegas or something. But it's a very interesting deck that I'm actually more familiar with, which is why I wanted to play this. Replay in particular. So I will be going first. And my hand is looking great. We got 2 Tenkis, because why not? And we got the Pollux Kaus and a Compulse to back it up. We are going to Tenki for the bear. We don't need to add Kaus, because why not? Why would we do that? Pollux, extra normal, Kaus. Going to raise the level of both of our monsters. Make the boy Pleiades himself. You'll see me do this a lot. And you want to know a little secret? I probably shouldn't have done it then, but it's still so cool I did it anyway. You bounce the Tenki. You can use it next turn. Alright, his turn, Mikazuchi. This card is kind of just an end-phase searcher. You know, Kaiser Coliseum. Very staple, very normal for Bujin to play this in this format. It's just kind of a protect the castle deck, and Kaiser Coliseum is just built for that. Kind of annoying, but there's a lot of outs in this format. You have stuff like Gorilla, MST, Pleiades, etc. And you'll see I'll actually compulse the Mikazuchi back. And in the end phase, I will Pleiades, the last material to bounce back the Mikazuchi. My turn, I do draw Rhoda. Now I have Tenki and Rhoda, so I can just Kaus Pollux again if I so wish. Make another rank 5. I do Tenki for the Kaus, and I do Rhoda for the Pollux, and I do it again, and I raise the Pollux, and they do a smart thing here. They do a smart thing, right? They chalice my Kaus after I have already raised the level of Pollux. Therefore, I cannot make a rank 4 or a rank 5. However, I'm still able, ignore that was a little yoinky sploinky, able to get in for big damage. However, they do have the D prison for my materialist Pleiades, and he does have the Dark Hole to clean up the other 2 monsters. Now the tempo is pretty securely in his favor, and he's able to get in with Mikazuchi and start getting in with that Kaiser Coliseum. I'm able to remove it. I do top deck Wolfbark, I believe, and I have the Tenki for the Gorilla, and I use it to pop the Kaiser. Unfortunately, I'm not able to clear the Mikazuki, and that's able to just let him normal summon and go into a Kagatsuchi, and this is kind of bad for me, but I do have a pretty good out, as you may have seen. We draw Phoenix for turn. I normal the Wolfbark that I drew, summon back the Gorilla, make Silent Honor Arc to equip the Kagatsuchi. I'm not sure if Kagatsuchi is supposed to retain its materials or not. In another like match, I Silent Honor Arc someone and they gave me an Xyz monster that had all its materials. I don't think it mattered, but still. And damage, and I get deprisoned once more. I am like Icarus flying too close to the sun and ending up in, I don't know, hell, I guess, because that's probably where the dimensional prison goes. He draws Solemn Warning for turn, keep this in mind, and he starts going in with the Crane Beats, all reliable. I have 2 Fiendish Chains, but he is able to just Solemn the Bear summon, and that is really bad for me. And he top decks Tenki to add Yamato, and things are going bad. Since I have 2 Fiendish Chains, I decide to Fiendish Chain the Yamato just to force it to do something, and I don't want it to start getting the searches and dumps and etc. off. But then it just makes 2 Zanuo, and I'm like, okay, I'll Fiendish Chain this. But he has a turtle. I forgot about that. He milled it off of Kagatsuchi, and that really sucks. And he adds a Yamato, keep this in mind, and he just gets in with the thing, and I am on low life. I'm on top deck mode. I top deck Dark Hole, but it's not enough to save me from normal summon Yamato. That's game 1. Hopefully things will go differently. Totally. Anyway, Tenki for Kaus. Guess what we're doing, baby? Guess what we're doing? Guess what we're making? It's the boy. And guess what we're doing? We are bouncing tenki. Yes. And this time we do not have a compulse to back us up. However, it's kind of just better to do the tenki thing because I only have one tenki this time. It makes more sense to bounce my own tenki. Whereas maybe last time I shouldn't have done it. Tenki, I activate. He MSTs this. I'm not sure if this is a thing with this format or I'm just crazy, but the search does not go through when it is MST'd. That's what he said anyway. It makes sense to me, but I don't know. It could be wrong. I do have the rota for pollux anyway. And I just normal bear and try to get in, and I get D-present again! Again! My hubris is too much, and here I make a mistake. I decide not to attack with bear. I should have just done it. And you'll see why. He flip summons the Chilin, normals the turtle, and makes Tsukuyomi. And that is kind of bad for me. He detaches the Chilin as well, which means he's able to banish it to pop the bear. Sucks. I do have the wolf bark for the crackback, able to make Exciton Knight, but he solemns the summon. Basically, I'm getting absolutely fried this round. He normals Yamato, and he gets in, and he's starting to be able to get this train going. He bins a fucking turtle. I just set pass, and it's not looking good for me. I got one more turn. He bins a hare. It's torrential, and it's game. I was really hoping he would play into torrential, but c'est la vie, no more. Unfortunately, that's going to be it for this deck. I just wanted to show this to show some of the cool plays that were possible and some of the, I chose that replay specifically because it was a deck that I was familiar with going up against for the most part. I've read the cards, which is more than I can say for some decks in this format. And honestly, I'm really happy with Constellar. I was kind of nervous about him, like, why don't I just go back to old reliable Bujin? But baby, this was fun. This is a really cool deck, and honestly, if you just like Xyz monsters in any capacity, even if you don't, try this format out. It's really fun, and I had a lot of fun playing it. Alright, that's gonna be it. See you guys.